So that might be the best reading month I have ever had. Welcome back again to the library, Readers and Rapscallions. Ian is here, and I'm going to be talking about my June and how that whole month went. It was a singularly extraordinary month for me, reading-wise, and also what we can expect in July, what my goals are going to be. So I start off the month, actually it was about 2 weeks into the month, I think I finished up Memory of Light. I kind of took my time with it because I didn't really want it to end. Finishing up Wheel of Time, 14 giant tomes after 2 years of reading on and off. What an astonishing send-off. I'll put out my thoughts on Wheel of Time soon, I promise. It's a lot to unpack. But that was, I couldn't ask for a better finish to a series like that. It was just incredible. We also finished up I, Claudius, so that was actually funnily enough, my first review on the channel. You can go check it out if you want. I, Claudius is a framing narrative style historical fiction written as if it were a autobiography by Roman Emperor Claudius. So wonderful insights into Rome, political machinations. Wasn't the biggest fan of the writing style because, as I mentioned in the review, the book is about 100 years old, but you can go check out my full thoughts at that video. I still definitely recommend it to anybody who has an interest in history or historical fiction. It's a great place to start, or if you're just looking for something a little bit different than fantasy and sci-fi. We also are continuing Lord of the Rings. I finished Two Towers. As I said in my TBR for June, I shamefully have not read Lord of the Rings at this point, but I've seen the movies a bazillion times, as have most self-respecting human beings, and it just continues to be a wonderful, just astonishing adventure into literature. I mean, this is the foundations of modern fantasy as we know it that I'm experiencing. It was really interesting for me to see, again, as somebody who hasn't read the books before, how it's narratively shifted in terms of pacing and organization in the books versus the films. How much of the dialogue is lifted directly from the books, and it's just so remarkably poetic. It still stands in the short list of best fantasy I've ever written. It deserves all the praise it gets and more. Everyone who's read it before, you know that already. I'm never going to not recommend it. And I'm going to take a short break before getting to Return of the King. Next one I finished up was Boy's Life by Robert McCammon. Another stunner, another 5-star book. Just, oh my God. I'm going to put out a full review for that one. It was a slice of life through the eyes of a young boy about his town in the 1960s, Deep South, and how everything has just a little bit of magic to it, and there's supernatural happenings, or maybe there's not. There's a murder mystery, there's the regular historical consequences that come with being in the segregation era, and there's interacting with your family and loving your friends and all the adventures you get to go on as a kid, because when you're that young, going the next town over is a grand odyssey. Getting your bike, your first childhood bike, is being granted your trusty steed, and your parents are indomitable authorities. Your dog is going to be with you forever, and your friends are never going to change. And being able to see a lot of that whimsy and just kind of that single summer that changes everything type of story was sensational. I kind of wanted to immediately read it again. I'm going to put out a full review for Boy's Life, but that was just amazing. Next up, I also finished a little bit of a surprise, one I didn't plan on, and that was The Road by Cormac McCarthy. This one is a story about a boy and a man, that's all they're referred to as, the boy and the man, as they wander across a wasteland after some kind of apocalypse. You don't really find out what. It's like a story of survival and the bond between a father and his son, and all the trials and difficulties and heartbreak that you go through in that situation. So between that one and Boy's Life, I was kind of getting the feelings like every time I hear Cats in the Cradle on the radio, getting all stuffed up and feeling like I need to immediately drop everything and call my dad. So people who are close with their fathers are gonna get a little bit of the feelings by reading either of those two stories. The Road was I can 1,000% see how it's a Pulitzer winner. It was amazing. I also discovered I'm not the biggest fan of Cormac McCarthy's writing style, and I've learned since that is a lot of people's big gripe with Cormac McCarthy. He doesn't use punctuation. His dialogue is pretty simple. There's a lot of yes, no, okay, and I feel like that was good to pace out and kind of keep it into a fairly simple small scale narrative, which in this case benefited the story. But I kind of would have liked a little bit more complexity. On the other hand, I also feel like we got exactly as much insight into these characters as we needed to get a fairly small scale but just emotionally charged and kind of a tearjerker of a story. It was really, really moving, and I really like this one. Next up, and of course the first one for the month of July, is going to be Lonesome Dove. It's going to be a great segue. We'll just transition right now being into from what we read in June to what we're going to read in July. I'm about 200 or so pages into Lonesome Dove right now. It's a bit of a long book, so it's going to take me a little while, but it's already a great time. There's this great quote just right at the beginning that I'll go ahead and read off, and it really kind of explains the whole story and sort of sets the stage. All America lies at the end of the wilderness road, and our past is not a dead past, but still lives in us. Our forefathers had civilization inside themselves, the wild outside. We live in the civilization they created, but within us, the wilderness still lingers. What they dreamed, we live, and what they lived, we dream. And that really kind of encapsulates the story so far. I'm sure there's going to be lots of twists and turns on the way. This is everything I've heard about, had told to me, read, says this is pretty emotionally charged, and that it's an extremely dense character first drama about ranchers on a cattle drive from Texas to, I think it was Montana. And I'm just loving it. They're kind of like, a lot of them are kind of old timers, so they're just sort of driving each other batty, and I'm totally here for it. And I live in the Midwest now, but I used to live and work in the American West. And seeing the visuals, it's kind of making me smile a little bit, bringing me back to some of those fun times and a different time in my life when I was a bit of a different person. And it's giving it a little bit of a extra meaning that might not have otherwise. I'm surely going to be doing a whole video on Lonesome Dove when I get there, so tune in for that. As of right now, it's really something special. First new one for the month of July is going to be The Dragon Bone Chair by Tad Williams. I am looking for some new fantasy, and so, this is obviously, it's not new, but it's going to be new to me. So I've had the series on my shelf back there for a little bit now, and it's finally time to dive in. So let's get into what it's about. A war fueled by the powers of dark sorcery is about to engulf the peaceful land of Ostenard, for Prester John, the High King, lies dying, and with his death, the Storm King, the undead ruler of the elf-like Scythi, seizes the chance to regain his lost realm through a pact with the newly ascended king. Knowing the consequences of this bargain, the king's younger brother joins with a small, scattered group of scholars, the League of the Scroll, to confront the true danger threatening Ostenard. Simon, a kitchen boy from the royal castle unknowingly apprenticed to a member of this league, will be sent on a quest that offers the only hope of salvation, a deadly riddle concerning long-lost swords of power. Compelled by fate and perilous magics,
He must leave the only home he's ever known and face enemies more terrifying than Ostenard has ever seen, even as the land itself begins to die.
And yeah, so that's Dragonbone Chair, first book in Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. This is, I've heard it called Game of Thrones before Game of Thrones. It's influenced George R. R. Martin, Patrick Rothfuss, all different kinds of fantasy writers, and kind of seeing something that is in the same era as Wheel of Time, as in transitional from that classical fantasy to more modern fantasy. Definitely a time period I'm interested in the genre, and certainly going to be a fun read for this. After Dragonbone Chair, we're shaking it up a little bit. Devil in the Dark Water by Stuart Turton. So this is going to be a kind of a historical fiction mixed with horror, mixed with mystery. So it takes place in the 1600s. You've got this detective on a boat on his way to a trial, and then supernatural things start happening. There's these mysterious signs and portents, and people start getting marked for death. People start disappearing. There's visions and apparitions that are seen, and it's a combination of I've heard it called a combination of Lovecraftian horror meets murder mystery whodunit, and that is 10,000% up my alley. It's not a short book, but it's not terribly long either. So hopefully it's not going to take me too long to finish this. But stepping out again of my comfort zone of sci-fi fantasy, Devil in Dark Water. After that, for the month of July, we're continuing with Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn with The Stone of Farewell. I have zero reason to think that Dragonbone Chair is going to be garbage because everyone sings its praises, so I have the second one right here. I'm not reading the summary on this one because I don't want there to be spoilers. It was just one of those ones that I figured, okay, this is going to have something good to it. And I mean, it's only 3 books. But I laugh because of how long the third one is. But it's going to be probably getting close to the end of the month by the time I get to this one. So maybe I'll finish it before the end of the month, maybe not. And real quick, I'm certainly not going to get to it in the month of July, but I just wanted to bring it up because I have a copy of To Green Angel Tower here. And this is one of the longest novels ever written, and certainly in the English language. It's like up there with War and Peace, you know? And it's like that big, and like, look at that tiny writing. I'm not even looking at because I don't want to spoil myself. But what are we looking at? We're at about 1,100 pages. It's so big that in traditional paperbacks it's usually 2 volumes, but I specifically wanted to get the big one, the single volume. This is probably going to be an August read, but I just wanted to show the book and how gigantinormous it is. Anyways, like I said, To Green Angel Tower is probably not going to be until August, because after Stone of Farewell, we're stepping back into Sun Eater. So I've already read Empire of Silence, but I love that universe. I'm going to be staggering my reads of that to hopefully time it with the release of Shadows Upon Time, which comes out in November. Also, I think fairly soon these editions of books 4 and 5 are going to get shipped out, hopefully, I think. So it'd be nice to time it with that too, so it can all be like the same editions. But I went over the summary of this book in my book haul, so go ahead and check it out. But you've got Hadrian Marlowe, who is kind of the son of a great house in the galaxy, and he ends up on a planet he didn't mean to go to, and kind of gets lost there. He gets tangled up in living on the street and machinations of great houses and an alien invasion. So it's just a beautiful world. I love the style of writing Christopher Rocchio has, so I'm really, really looking forward to this and continuing past where I left off, which was Howling Dark in book 2, and kind of reading the rest of the series. I'm finally doing it. Maybe I'll finish this one in July. I doubt it, but we're certainly going to try our best. Okay, readers and rapscallions, that will do it for this June recap and July TBR. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode with the library. Let me know in the comments what you think I'm going to enjoy the most. I'm really trying to stack it up with some just bangers, and I'm hoping to have a month like this June was. Again, like I'm still floored. Like, what a stunner! It was just banger after banger after banger, and it was a good time. This is what reading is all about, ladies and gentlemen. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Give me a subscription if you feel like I've earned it. We'll see you next time in the library.